incredible day to help really shape and change our community. You see all the fantastic members of our team here with diverse backgrounds, amazing amounts of experience. I was awed by this group. I come from the business services sector. I work with employers. And I'm going to tell you, it's heartbreaking. I'm on the other end of it. I see job seekers, they're 50 years old, sit down in front of us, and as we trace their history back to find out what went wrong, why can you not get a job? What is your barrier? What's impeding you? You think, well, maybe it was something that got laid off a couple of years ago, or maybe something drastically changed, recently in their employment or in their life. You can trace it all the way back to them being in high school and what happened there. Now, luckily I don't think my boss is here. Don't tell him that I told you this, but I think it would be an amazing day if on the adult side of our programs, if someday I was out of a job, if all the focus was on the youth side of it, where we put our priorities, it would be an amazing day. Now, I like shopping, so don't tell them that too soon, because I do like having my own job. But I do want to thank the people that were a part of this team, because I think I've heard this from the other work groups. They checked their ego at the door. They came in, we all come from different organizations. We have service providers, CBOs, workforce, education, and we're all sitting there. We look at this through a different lens. We went back and forth debating what the data was telling us, and we said, we really do have to put our head and our heart aside for a minute and really let the data lead us. And that's a really difficult thing to do, because we come in and we say we know what we want to focus on, because we see this specific aspect every day in our life. But we really had to check that at the door and say, what is the data telling us? So after several months of spirited discussion and negotiation, I heard arm wrestling went on in one of the workrooms. We didn't have that, darn it. The thing that kept coming back, it kept resonating. There were two indicators that kept coming to us no matter what path we took. And we said, we think we're onto something. If we as a group can all focus and align along these two indicators, this is what we need to be looking at to really move that bar and to shape and change the legacy of these children for our community in the future. So with that, I want to leave it to our two presenters, Lanisha and Kelly, to guide us through the data and let us know the story that needs to be told around preparing our youth for life.
Good morning. Good morning. Just checking to make sure our technical assistance is on board. I'm Kelly Fowler, the Vice President of Instruction at Willow International Community College Center, and Lanisha and I are here to talk about the results of Workgroup 3. And Workgroup 3 had a focus of prepared for life. And we've heard a lot of discussion today about the different age groups, infants, the third graders, 7 and 8-year-olds, and we are here to talk about our high school students, because we feel that we are missing an opportunity at that level as well, and want to share with you the results that we found. We wanted and want our youth to be prepared, to be self-sustaining individuals in our community. And as Christine said, we kept coming back to those two indicators. And part of those two indicators is being college or career ready, and sometimes both. And so you'll hear us keep repeating that about being college and or career ready. And you'll hear a lot of the same things that you may have heard either this morning or things that you experienced in your own life. But they really give the framework for our results of what we came to and what we want to share with you today. So with that, I'll pass it on to Lanisha.
And first of all, I would like to just commend all of you that have given of yourselves to the children of our wonderful city. I know that each of us can agree that there's not a one-size-fits-all solution that can speak to many of our unique problems. But it is amazing to be a part of such a committed group of leaders and individuals that are willing to take that great step forward to invest in the future of our youth. So in my line of work, I often share the weight of that 1 in 3 kid living in poverty. Many of them have the hopes of one day having that improved quality of life. But for some, that day won't come soon enough as they eventually give up, because no one just took the time out to lift them into that life-saving raft. And if I might just share with you a little story, and it's quite relevant to a lot of our young people living here in Fresno County. One day, there was a little girl that at the age of 9 had her heart's desire set on becoming somebody. Life was too full of chaos that she couldn't just settle on becoming anybody. But this one particular day, she had went to her mom and she says, "Mom, I'm hungry." And of course, Mom was doped up and high and exhausted from being up all night long trying to find ways that she can seek victory on getting her next high. So when the little girl came to her, she just basically just, I'm sorry. So of course, you know, just having a lot of our young people having to experience that in and out of our dope dealers and the smokers that are just constantly running in and out of our young people's homes, and can't really even expect that our young people are, you know, just being able to have a good night's sleep, let alone being able to have that fresh start needed to get to school. Along with the just constant bickering that this little girl had to go through with her mom and dad, and the shrills of just day in and day out of that physical abuse all times of the night. Well, by this day, it was the 10th of the month, and this little girl, she's still hungry, and all of the burritos and frozen pizzas and chips and cookies that was purchased by Mom's food stamps were gone. And just feeling unloved and detached, the young girl, she continued in this vein day in and day out. And then just finally one day just ended up seeking care in all the wrong places, all because she was hungry. Here in Fresno, we have some areas of our city, especially in the western parts of our community, with up to 64% of our families living in poverty or below the poverty level. Our youth are searching for help. Life is too cloudy for them right now to even begin to think about what it will take for them to succeed in today's ever-changing economy. But we are in the best position to share with them that roadmap and educate them on what it will take to become college and career ready. And as Kelly had mentioned and Christine had mentioned, our group had the opportunity to go through the data and just find out those different efforts that we as a community can get involved in to make sure that they are on their way of having that improved quality of life. And so we chose 2 indicators. Number 1 being that our youth have that high school education. They graduate high school. And number 2, that we ensure that we help them develop those hard and or soft skills.
So the first indicator I would just like to address is about having and completing a high school education. I want to take you back in time to the 70s, where for the middle class to earn their wage, all you had to have was a high school education or less. And 70% only had, at the most, a high school education. And then come back to today, where that is only the first step of many to being successful. And if you compare a high school graduate with that of a college graduate over a lifetime, it is $1 million in difference in terms of what they have earned. That is a lot of money, and that differential is only widening. The next part that I'd just like to talk a little bit about, that all of you probably experience if you work with high school students, whether it's at our high school or whether it's at the workplace or with a volunteer, we really wanted to talk about 2 different types of skill sets. The first skill set are what we're calling hard skills. And those are reading, writing, mathematics, maybe more on the academic side. But it's really about communication and critical thinking. But there's another piece to that puzzle of our youth being successful that we kept coming back to time after time, especially if you look at the workforce data. And these are skills that we call soft skills. and they'll probably be very, very familiar to you. Being on time, not texting the entire time they're there, actually being awake, actually realizing in my setting that you probably should actually have a textbook and like open it if you really want to pass the class. So we see those skill sets all the time, that they are critical to success. And on the previous slide, I mentioned about a high school education, and I really want to clarify at this point what we meant by that. For a high school education, we mean the high school degree and not a GED. We found, and you probably also recognize, that they really truly aren't the same. But our high school students give up and they just drop out thinking that it is the same. And I just want to point out, I don't know if you've ever heard of Paul Tough before, but he is the author of How Children Succeed. And he really best summarizes what we felt about the GED. He stated that the GED has become a test that separates the bright but non-persistent and undisciplined dropouts from other dropouts. He called these the wise guys that lack the ability to think ahead, persist in tasks, or to adapt to their environments. In other words, the GED completers, although we are very happy that they complete, they again are lacking those soft skills to succeed in life. And now that our people need to be prepared, are you, Lanisha?
Yes. So we have to ask ourselves, are our youth college or career ready? And if we can provide a standard, what would that support system look like? Well, one, guidance counseling, or I call it roadmap counseling. And those can either be in place-based or in-school environments. And number two, that we must ensure that they are part of a coherent system of career and technical education that will help them pursue that graduating from high school and or pursuing that post-secondary education. And number three, we must ensure that while they are connected to this system, that they feel as though they are connected. There was a study done by some 11th graders, by 11th graders back between 2008 and 2010, that 64% of our 11th graders suggested that they did not feel that there was a caring adult in school. And so it's vitally important because, especially with budget cuts here in California, they've already reduced our staff levels to dangerously low levels, leaving a lot of our at-risk students without that opportunity to just have that personalized attention along with just the follow-up that they need to stay in school. And at the same time, our U.S. economy is increasingly demanding that higher education. So by 2018, studies suggest that over 45% of our jobs will require some form of higher education. But at the same time, there's that growing skills gap that we've been talking about. And it has left many of our young adults lacking the skills and the work ethic needed to even achieve just even earning a median wage. Along with here in Fresno County alone, over 30% of our adults that are over the age of 25 currently do not even have a high school education. Okay. And the story even gets worse for those disconnected youth. Okay, with disconnected youth meaning those youth who are not either in school or in some type of work environment. And this population is more likely to struggle with mental illness, struggle with drug abuse, substance abuse, encounter violence, become teen parents. Along with our male youth, they're more likely to become involved in our court systems and illegal behaviors, along with our female youth who are more likely to become dependent on our public aid. And so engagement in some sort of school and or work environment is critical to the success of our young people. Detachment from these types of environments not only hurt them as an individual, but our economy. A study that was also done in 2011, disconnection, youth disconnection cost the U.S. taxpayer over $93 billion in lost tax revenues and in increased social service costs.
Per year.
So I just want to address some of those barriers to success. So again, our group looked at being college or career ready or perhaps both. And the barriers, I just want to touch on these. They've been discussed today. They're a part of our everyday lives that we see with our youth that we know are barriers. And the first one is the economic stability. We've heard a lot about that today. We've heard Lanisha talk about the poverty level at the beginning of the presentation and others too in our group. And we know that this is a barrier. College costs are increasing and getting more and more, just in the past decade, have exponentially grown. And financial aid is getting more and more challenging to acquire. We know that teen pregnancy is also a barrier to our youth succeeding. We know that gang involvement, 1 in 10 gang members are between the ages of 5 and 19. And between the ages of 14 and 19, it significantly increases. And one of the last barriers I want to talk about, and we've heard today also, are about the felony arrest with our youth. Lanisha's story earlier of that little girl really depicted an environment probably filled with youth that were high school dropouts, involved in criminal activities, substance abuse. We know, and we heard earlier today, that once they are in that system, it's very difficult not only to obtain their educational goals, but to be successful, period. We know these are barriers to them succeeding. These are the barriers to doing either one, being college and or career ready.
So what will happen if we don't improve our youth college and career readiness? Well, one, we can surely expect that there's going to be a decrease in wage earnings, an increase in unemployment, and a decreased economic benefit to our state and region. So as the saying goes, more money, more education means more money. By the outline here, it shows that just by earning a high school diploma, the wage earnings for someone in that education bracket goes up from $451 to $638 a week just by having a high school diploma. But then it even increases even more as it goes up to having a bachelor's degree. Per week, the earnings can be potentially up to $1,053. So, of course, again, it shows that more education pays off in higher earnings. So, in a single year, Fresno County's regional economic losses loses the benefit of millions of dollars, of course, in lost tax revenues, increased earnings, as we mentioned. But the thing that really stuck out for me was a study done by the U.S. Census Bureau. And it talks about the gap in wealth has widened. And by race, respectively, in 2010, the median net worth for whites was $110,729. Comparatively to $7,424 for Hispanics and $4,995 for blacks having the lowest net worth. And if I might break that down, for every $1 earned, blacks' net worth, and net worth meaning assets minus your liabilities, and at the end of all that, your net worth. So, for every $1 earned, that breaks down to blacks' net worth at 2 cents. For Hispanics, 4 cents. Get that, 2 cents. And that was in 2010. And if we choose to do nothing, our large, unskilled, and unemployed population of Fresno youth will continue to grow. Their chances for a better future are already at a rapid decline. And they will soon join the millions of high school dropouts that are already facing a severe shortage of jobs in their educational bracket. The trajectory of their lives as they transition to adulthood will result into further stagnation of our economy, leaving us, Fresno, with a greater population of homeless, hungry, unskilled, and unemployed. So, do you remember that story at the beginning of that little girl? Well, that story was me. And someone took the chance on me and lifted me into that life-saving raft.
So as Lanisha has described, we really do have an opportunity, an obligation at that high school level to prepare our youth, to prepare them whether they're going to college, whether they're going into a career. So by ignoring our youth, we are ignoring our future. And again, they need two things in order once they leave high school, once they become adults. They need one, that high school education, but they also need those hard skills and those soft skills, those critical thinking, communication, people skills, in order to be successful, in order to be college and or career ready. The future of Fresno, the future of our youth, depend on our youth being ready, being invested, and most importantly, being prepared. Thank you.